Hello and welcome. You're watching a very exclusive conversation with Mr. Pankaj Pandey, Head Research, ICICI Direct. Let us talk about the stocks that would be impacted by the budget which has been presented by the Finance Minister this afternoon. Pankaj, which are the stocks that you are now looking at post-budget?
So I think pre and post budget are largely we were focusing on capex being the primary driver for the budget and for the government, and I think that has largely sort of panned out. So my pre and post budget recommendations largely would not be very different. Now, prior to budget, since capex was a big theme, so which is why we believe that a stock like L&T deserves to be bought at current levels because in terms of recent con call, they highlighted that the tendering activity in Q4 is going to be very robust. And budget also is sort of highlighting a good amount of allocation towards capex. And L&T is expected to be a big beneficiary of that, so which is why L&T with a target price of 2168 is what we would prefer. Then road is another segment where our sense is that you'll have companies like KNR and PNC ideally will benefit. Along with that, these companies also have a good amount of exposure on the water or irrigation project, which the government is also sort of driving through. So a company like PNC Infra is what we would prefer. Then, besides that, since capex is a theme, and obviously banks will be a beneficiary of this particular theme. Axis Bank, with a target price of 870, should get preferred, or we would suggest that. Actually, because one, I think banking overall, the credit cost is coming down. Capex was something which was missing as a piece. And structurally, we've seen that private sector banks have done well. So Axis Bank has got a good exposure on the corporate side. So which is why this bank. And I'm also willing to put up PSU Bank, Bank of Baroda, where our target price is 120. Now here we would want to believe that one overall the capital adequacy ratio for PSU banks have improved. One, the other thing is that largely the credit cost is sort of coming down, and PSUs have even bigger or a higher exposure on the corporate side or the capex side. So which is where we believe that some of the efficient PSU banks can be looked at, and Bank of Baroda from that perspective fits well. Then, in addition to that, I would want to believe that since the government talked about the Gati Shakti project, where they're looking at an integrated multimodal logistic system. So I think Container Corporation is one company which can be looked at from both perspective of it being a big beneficiary of the overall logistic infrastructure what the government wants to create. Because if you have to promote manufacturing, you would need a very efficient logistics system, and which is where I think Container Corporation fits in. And I think an icing on the cake or a silver lining for this company could also be that since this is a divestment candidate, probably it could next year, probably this company could benefit from more efficient management when the ownership gets transferred. Because what we see is that in terms of realization, what it gets for per ton TUEs or container is one third of what a private player gets. So obviously, this company can do a lot more better with the numbers in an efficient management, and which is why we feel that Container Corporation of India looks very attractive. So this can be bought with a target price of 698. Then I think since there will be a higher demand for metals as well as cement, so in metals, National Aluminium is what we like. Now we know that steel is being sort of bit volatile, largely because of the rising coking coal prices. But aluminium is the only commodity in the last 12 months which has been on a higher side and hasn't seen any kind of a dip. And National Aluminium operates in the aluminum space, and also from the perspective that since it's a PSU, it could also be a potentially divestment candidate, because government would not, it is not one of the core areas which the government would want to sort of retain the company. So which is where National Aluminium with a target price of 125 is what we would suggest. Then I think in defense, government talked about a lot more indigenization, and then they would. So from that perspective, we would expect that more domestic content oriented defense products will get produced, and which is where we feel that a company like Bharat Dynamics can do well. Here, we would want to believe that last year has been decent, and I think next 2 years, if a lot more indigenization happens, then the revenue opportunity for a company like this goes up. So, which is why this company. So, I think these are the stocks we would suggest, and we feel comfortable recommending at current levels.
Mhm. Pankaj, what is your stand on real estate sector? We didn't get anything directly for real estate sector, but yeah, PM Awas Yojana got a boost of 48,000 crores allocation for FY23.
So yes, so largely I think up till now the government's focus has been providing water and housing to the rural households as well as poor urban households. So that has been the focus. From a listed side, you really do not have many companies which will benefit except for companies on the financing side. But having said that, I think obviously it benefits the ecosystem in terms of better steel demand as well as cement demand. Nothing much from that side, but I think real estate as a sector is already witnessing a revival, largely because of number of demand supply factors which the government has. I think the tide has changed post RERA and post ILFS crisis, and which is why I think real estate has been one of the better performing sectors. And I think whether you look at most of the revenue bookings for most of the leading players is coming at elevated levels. And since these factors are already sort of helping, I don't think an extra push was required for real estate. I think whatever is required for real estate to perform is already there on the table.
Thank you, Pankaj, for your time. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.